Good morning, traders. Welcome to the Phoenix Blue morning update for Friday, the 22nd of April. I'm Tom Colley, and I'll be taking you through the markets and the news this morning. And the big news today is overnight there have been rumours from the Bank of Japan that they will consider negative rates on loans whilst considering further cuts into negative interest rates on deposits. Now, I'm sure these loans will be for institutions, banks, etc., not for the man in the street, but that's effectively saying, please have some money and we'll pay you to take it. So quite an unbelievable scenario, but possibly this is the next stage of QE or quantitative easing, or what's laughingly been described as helicopter money, i.e. just dropping money into the economy. Okay, let's start over in Japan. This is the Nikkei. This is the weekly chart of the Nikkei because effectively their trading week ended or ends now at the end of the overnight session. We can see a very substantial second bullish week. Interestingly, when we switch over to the Shanghai Composite, this reflects Asia as a whole, and they've had a bearish week, but particularly overnight, the Nikkei has had a substantial rise against losses across the rest of Asia, based almost exclusively on this rumour about the negative interest rate loans. Okay, over to the news now, and the big news yesterday, well, we had some retail sales figures in for the UK. They were really quite negative, as has been all the news announcements this week. They've all been very negative for the pound, but none of them have driven the pound substantially lower over a longer period of time. Then we had the big one, which was the minimum bid rate and the ECB press conference. Not unexpectedly, we had no change in the zero or negative in certain areas interest rates. The press conference reiterated the we'll do whatever it takes stance. We are aware of negativity or negative situations in the world economy, and we'll do what's needed to react to that. Again, we'll have a look at what that statement actually did and talk about that a little bit more in a second. Unemployment claims came in the States exceptionally low. I read these were the lowest unemployment claim figures since 1972, I think it was. So really quite strong figures there for the dollar. What we've got to look forward to today, well, just the core CPI and core retail sales on the Canadian dollar out at 1.30 this afternoon. Let's go and have a look at the US dollar. This is the dollar index. What I've done is highlighted the period of time with an hour chart here through the ECB announcement and press conference. We had really a sell-off pre the press conference starting. As soon as the press conference started, we had basically a move back to the original levels. Now, when you were watching that on screen, that seemed quite dramatic, but I think it's probably quite an ordered way to go through an announcement of that nature at the current time. Over on the yen, we can see the reaction to the rumour about the interest-free loans, so not interest-free, negative interest rate loans in Japan, and we've seen a weakening there of the Japanese yen. That weakening took us about 5:45 this morning, took us into our yen trade around 110. Price moved away, it reacted to that level. However, almost immediately it then turned around and came back towards the entry. We were already trading at Phoenix Blue at half risk there. Once price came back as quickly as it did, we cut one of the two positions that we hold within that 0.5%. So we were holding 0.25%, and as I look at my screens now, yes, I think that's now out, and that's now been stopped on the overnight news announcement. I said, but fortunately we were low risk and we managed to get some additional risk off the table based on we're expecting follow through into the London Open. Okay, over on the euro, well, we're just really looking at again what we saw on the dollar index. This is the daily bar in question. You can see how really it's just a complete reversal. It's engulfed the previous day's bearish bar and then come all the way back down to be an engulfing high test bar, or whatever you like to call that. Again, on the hour chart, we can see the exact replica pre the actual press conference and pre the announcement. The euro rose on expectation and then fell back again as soon as the Mario Draghi started speaking and we started getting the details through to basically end up where it started. So not a lot came out of it as a net effect. Only other thing I'm going to talk about this morning is the S&P. We saw a strong sell-off day here yesterday. We had an order at this level that we were looking as the high of the market. Some of the Phoenix Blue brokers, myself included, had a relatively tight stop on that and were taken out of that trade at a loss. Some of the Phoenix Blue traders were taking a longer term picture on that and took a more conservative stop position and then remained in that. Those of us who were taken out by the tighter stop entered this market on a price action entry on the break of the low. Here you can see the entry. It just tipped in very early this morning. We're now in this market on that bearish signal. Be looking for first T1s around this level, which I think is about 2040. So we've been watching for this market to fall to the downside. It seems to have taken a long time to get to where it is now. That might still not be the downside, but if it was to break significantly above these highs here now, personally I would then be very cautious on considering that any sort of top in the market, having already taken a trade at a slightly lower level than this, and again at that point we would have at least been stopped out on our existing trade there. Okay, so that's where we're up to today. As usual, here's just highlighting for those of you who aren't Phoenix Blue traders what we actually do here. When we're talking on this particular video, we tend to be talking about our pure analysis, where we use clean charts. We only use price action and horizontal levels. We don't use any lagging indicators whatsoever. We look to buy and sell with the market movers. We always trade with a fundamental bias. We're specialists in analysing the Commitment of Traders report, which is the US futures market, which gives us some independent signals. If you'd like to know more about that or any of the other aspects we talk about, or this video in general, please email us at info@phoenixblue.co.uk. Okay, so that's, as far as the videos are concerned, brings the week to a conclusion. Another quite volatile week in the markets. I know many people will have taken losses this week, but hopefully you will have good risk management as we do here, so you've only lost an amount that you're comfortable with losing. We tend to think of it in terms of an amount that we feel on a reasonable week next week we could make that money back. Okay, so enjoy your weekends and we'll be back with you on Monday. Goodbye.